I'd like to welcome Jose Velazquez, who is the Deputy Administrator for Operations and Regional Management at the Office of Apprenticeship at the federal level. As Deputy Administrator for Operations and Regional Management, he has responsibility over program administration, budget, human resources, operational programs, and personnel, both federal and contractors. He works over 6 regions across the United States with staff and contractors. The Office of Apprenticeship leads the Department of Labor's efforts to increase the number and widen the occupational coverage of U.S. apprenticeships and through demonstration grants, industry and equity partner contracts, enhanced technical assistance, and the development of competency skill standards of apprenticeship. And you can see his full bio on our website as well. And Jose has graciously offered to fill us in on the federal perspective, and if time allows, take your questions at the end. Please help me in welcoming Jose.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you, Jose.
If you thought he walked, I'm worse. Well, good morning. It's kind of hard to always follow someone that's been elected because there's a lot of expectations for everyone that comes afterwards to try to match that. I'm a career federal government employee, so all I'm going to do is read you what the law says. No, it's already bad enough our liquid levels are high. I don't want you to run out of here. I'm here to talk to you about 3 things: money, a new product, and a website. And I want to talk to you about these 3 very particular things because this will give you an insight of what's happening at the federal level and how we actually support and partner up with the states. But before that, Jody told you that I do a lot. I do a lot sitting very comfortably in an office in Washington, D.C. And I pick up the phone and I grab emails and I call a very particular staff. And that staff here in Region 6, the West Coast, is led by my regional director, Patricia Garcia. Raise your hand, Patricia. With her, part of her staff, our navigator, and what he does is he goes all over where Patricia needs him to go, is Doug Howell. And our state directors here, Bill Kober, Colleen Henry, and Nora Carlton. And of course, our consultant, our contractor, ran out when he saw me coming up here. Where'd Ron go? Well, you'll see Ron. Ron is doing one of the trainings later on today. And then, of course, Jody here in Washington and Steve in Oregon, they're our partners. When it comes to apprenticeship, we have to work together. There's a very specific and very old federal law out there called the National Apprenticeship Act, the Fitzgerald Act from 1937. So we've been doing this around for a while. But what that act really calls for is a partnership between the federal government and the states to be able to implement what apprenticeship is all about. And right now, apprenticeship is the ball. It's the princess of the ball, sorry. Everyone knows what's happening in apprenticeship. We have not received bipartisan support from Congress in the last 3 years since ever. There is no other program in the Department of Labor receiving the kind of funds that we are from Congress. And that's important for you because that money we take and we push out to the states. In fiscal year 16, the federal government gave us $90 million. In 17, they gave us $95 million. And fiscal year 18, they gave us $140 million. That money, the bulk of it, goes out to the states. And this next set of money, the fiscal year 19, $160 million, once again, the bulk of it will go out to the states. And that's important for you to understand because we at the federal level cannot dictate what's happening at the state or the local levels. We push that to the state and the local levels because they know what's going on. You heard what Chris was saying, what's happening here in Washington. We take that money to provide support for you to understand what's happening here and for you to be able to use that money to expand and to diversify the apprenticeship. We're working with the Department of Commerce and Department of Education to talk about everything that's going on. I heard the very specific issue about apprenticeship and making it equal to bachelor's degrees. It's already happening. It's already happening. You're already seeing it. Those of you that went yesterday to the New America workshop, you heard a very specific number. Apprenticeship, completers of apprenticeship for fiscal year 18 now, so I'm updating Brent's slide. For fiscal year 18 are earning $70,000 on average when they complete apprenticeships. Those that are completing with a bachelor's degree are earning somewhere about $55,000. Yet, they also have approximately $25,000 in debt. Those apprentices earning $70,000 do not have that debt. And that's important for you to understand as we continue this conversation on what does apprenticeship mean. It's not the alternative to college. It is the option to college. At the federal level, we're looking at pre-apprenticeship and youth apprenticeships because we want to get that all the way down to the middle school areas. We want that conversation starting so that when they get into those high schools, they actually see those youth programs in place. There are many states out there that have very robust youth apprenticeship programs at the high schools. That's one of our big focuses with this funding, is to help those states create those youth apprenticeship programs because that is how apprenticeship is going to sustain throughout the years. Right now, the average age of an apprentice is 29 years old. We need to drop that. We're really looking at dropping it. And the youth apprenticeship is one of those areas that we want to focus in and bring folks in as early as possible. You heard the number, $1+ trillion in debt. That's crazy. Hopefully everyone starts to understand that this option that we call apprenticeship is a viable option that we can make sure that not just the counselors, but also the parents understand it is something for them to choose. And when we talk about choice, at the federal level, there are over 1,300 occupations that are considered apprenticeable. Then, of course, the states have different ones. That goes to show you what is out there as far as the type of jobs that folks are looking into as far as apprenticeship is concerned. Our growth in the industry, in the IT field and in healthcare is incredible. Tomorrow I have a very specific meeting with the Health and Human Services to talk about the Indian Health Services and reservations and how we get nurses into those programs. They have very specific requirements that apprenticeship is the answer to get those nurses into those services. So we're really looking at everything that's going out there. While construction and the trades is the bread and butter of apprenticeship, they have also grown. They've also made a lot of changes. But the non-traditional industries is really where you're seeing the biggest growth and a lot of expansion happening in those particular areas. And we talk about competency models. Yes, we have 3, 4, 5-year programs when it comes to apprenticeship. But because of the way that certain industries work, we need a flexible model, and the competency model provides that. It's real difficult to understand to be able to put one type of a policy across the United States when it comes to apprenticeship. So what we have done is created a second product. While registered apprenticeship is very specific to 2 regulations, 29 CFR 29 and 29 CFR 30, we have also heard from industry that they need flexibility from us. They need to be able to do different things in apprenticeship programs without the federal regulation oversight. That brings us to a product called the Industry Recognized Apprenticeship Programs. This was introduced through a presidential executive order in June 2017. Right now, we just finished a Paperwork Reduction Act package where we announced through the Federal Register what IRAP applications will be. We received approximately 33 comments. We're responding to those comments, and we'll post those comments here soon. What you need to understand about IRAPs, it is the ability of industry to create apprenticeship programs for their industry without the federal or the government roles in there. Industry recognized apprenticeship accreditors will be recognized by the Department of Labor. These accreditors working across their industry will then create, develop, and administer industry-recognized apprenticeship programs in their particular industry. We will not have a role in there. That, we hope, will provide all of the flexibility that the industries are calling for. Whether it's amount of time, the type of related technical instruction, or the credentials that are provided, that industry accreditor, that person that we recognize for that particular industry to oversee these apprenticeship programs, they will be the ones making those decisions for those particular programs. The last item I want to talk to you about is a website, apprenticeship.gov. Apprenticeship.gov was launched on Labor Day weekend. It is what we hope to be a one-stop model, a one-stop website for employers, job seekers, and then all other stakeholders. And when we talk about all other stakeholders, we're talking about counselors, educators, and of course, parents, people that need to know, want to understand about what apprenticeship is. On this website, there will be toolkits and other resources for employers to help them learn what apprenticeship is and how they can start one, or for current sponsors, how they can expand or diversify their programs. For job seekers, it will have an apprenticeship finder. We will be working with all the employers to recruit and to place and post all their apprenticeship openings on apprenticeship.gov, so someone can go in there, put in their zip code, put in some information, and it pops up what apprenticeship programs they are most likely to find in their area and what the different qualifications are, all on one stop. This is what we're trying to do to try to show what's happening across the entire nation when it comes to apprenticeship program. There's a lot of focus on apprenticeship. We really want to make sure that we push that out to the states, and that's why the states are a very particular partner for us. And it's part of my goal and my staff's goals to make sure that that partnership is a strong partnership. And we really appreciate the opportunity that Jody is providing us here to give us this opportunity to speak to you and let you know what's going on from the federal point of view. Understand that no matter what happens, we can't do our jobs if we don't have feedback from you. Yesterday, when you were doing the sessions in here, I was walking around and taking a look at very particular information that was going on. And I asked Jody to make sure that he sends that stuff to us. That's how we can then make decisions about the funding that we receive from Congress. There was some very particular information out there that, while it may not seem groundbreaking, to us it is. I saw something very specific on CTEs, pre-apprenticeship and youth activity and youth apprenticeship. I have a staff across the nation of 100 folks. And our focus is to register and develop programs and then make sure those programs are in compliance. We don't have the time, we don't have the bandwidth to try to look at innovative ways. So we really rely on you, those of you that are out there, those of you that are using apprenticeship every day, to provide that feedback. Whether you provide that feedback directly to my staff, to Jody's staff, or send it to me, please, that feedback is very important, because then it helps us go back to Congress and say, this is what the folks want, this is what they need, so this is how we want to be able to distribute that funding. Please provide that feedback. Get that information to Jody. I know all the different authors of the area, they're putting their notes together. That's going to be important to us. That's all I'm going to say. There's a lot more I can say. I can be up here for a while and all. My staff is going to be here the rest of the day. Unfortunately, I have to run back to Washington, D.C. There's a lot of going on out there. My boss was told by his wife they're going on a vacation, so they went on a vacation. And he's totally incommunicado somewhere out in the Caribbean. And my phone, that was my phone, right, doesn't stop ringing. And oh, by the way, the federal government is off today, and my phone still doesn't stop ringing. So I appreciate all your time. And I know I got a couple minutes here, hopefully, to be able to answer some questions, or are we over already?
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I am Emma Gray. I actually work with apprentices in Oregon. And I like the new website. It's really user-friendly and it has a lot of options. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about when you type in, I was sort of just exploring your zip code and the apprenticeship opportunities come in. I noticed some of them are identified as registered, some are not. And when you click on the not registered ones, they look a lot to me like job postings. How does an employer get something onto the apprenticeship.gov site? What makes it an apprenticeship versus not? Are these the industry recognized apprenticeships you're talking about? Let me just explain a little bit more about what we're looking at.
Right, well, I appreciate that. So when the website was first made available to allow employers to post their jobs, we didn't have a lot of parameters in there because we just wanted to get very particular information. So we've gotten a lot of feedback like that, so thank you. And our goal here is that website, we hope that it will be fully functional in the next 6 to 8 months. Now, I've been saying that for about 6 to 8 months. The Labor Day launch was actually a summer's late. We were trying to launch it in Memorial Day. So that's how the things happen when you're talking about IT and the federal government regulations, because we found out kind of late in the time that there's this guy called the Chief Information Officer who had a role in there too, so we had to run a lot through him. What I'm trying to get to is that we are working on that, and our hope is that it will be very specific to registered apprenticeship programs. All those other postings, yes, they're just other postings. We're trying to clean them out right now. Today, there are no industry-recognized apprenticeship programs out there. We believe at the earliest, you will probably see industry-recognized apprenticeship programs is sometime in early to mid 2019. The reason for that is we have to first recognize those accreditors. And we just finished the posting for the application. So once we respond to all those comments and repost those responses, at some point then the Department of Labor will say, we are now accepting applications for accreditors. There will be a review process. We will name who those accreditors are, and then they will go out and recruit employers and start creating those industry-recognized apprenticeship programs. That's why we believe it's still quite a few months away before we go in. But we are trying to clean up the website. Our goal is that it's apprenticeship.gov. They go in there and they're going to be able to find apprenticeship-specific positions. We heard a lot on that. Yes, sir.
On the federal level, as you discuss youth apprenticeships, registered youth apprenticeships, is there any conversation about lowering the number of hours from 2,000 to maybe 1,000 for the youth?
There are a lot of conversations when it comes to youth apprenticeship. The actual time-based program, the regulations specify that an apprenticeship program is 1 year minimum. So that's where the 2,000 hours come in. So as we look at youth apprenticeship, those are some of the considerations that we're looking at. What we've also heard is in a lot of youth apprenticeship programs, some of them are leaning more towards competency-based. So that kind of works for reducing the amount of time. But that is something that we are still looking at. We're nowhere near being able to launch and recognize youth apprenticeship programs. The ones that you see out there right now are very specific to states and local localities.
Over here. Ross Leach, Huntington Ingalls Industries. Wanted to thank you and your department for your support in us achieving our national registration just before National Apprenticeship Week. I also had this comment. About 2 years ago, in front of an audience kind of like this, I asked a question of a DOL representative, and that is, there's a lot of money that's coming from Washington. It pretty much, the majority, if not all of it, is earmarked towards paying for tuition or books for students. Is there any money that you know of that's being put forth so that the colleges can equip rooms to be able to teach newer apprentice programs in their areas?
Well, I will tell you that the funding that we push out specifically for apprenticeship, there are very few earmarks, as you call them. When we provide that money, we really allow the state entities to decide how that money is going to be used. Our biggest thing is it expanding and diversifying apprenticeship? There are some incentive aspects on it, but to say that it was for related technical instruction and books and all, I'm not sure if that was our particular program or someone else's and all, but usually we don't put that kind of an earmark on those items. Now, when we provide that funding to those states, it's really up to the states, because before we provide that funding, we receive proposals from the states to tell us what they're going to do with that money. And we really haven't turned anything down yet. So if the states want to use that money to expand the services in the school to be able to put in those kind of workshops, I couldn't tell you right now if we would accept that or not, because there's a whole process to it, but that makes sense because it's part of diversifying and expanding apprenticeship programs.
Jeff Dunleavy, Ross just mentioned the National Apprenticeship Week. We recently celebrated, many in this room celebrated in Snohomish County on November the 8th. We had close to 500 people celebrate National Apprenticeship Week in Snohomish County at the Skills Center. Can you tell me about your vision for National Apprenticeship Week, and what are the opportunities that communities really can enjoy by really taking part and participating?
Great, well, thank you. I will tell you, National Apprenticeship Week, this is the 4th year that we did it. It was probably one of the most successful events that we have seen. There were over 1,100 events nationwide. All 50 states and all territories had some kind of an event. For the first time, even Puerto Rico had events in apprenticeship. We had over 120 different proclamations from governors, mayors, and different organizations. We're still waiting on the number of social media impressions. Last year, it was over 50 million, I think was the number. So we know that National Apprenticeship Week exposure is there. Many people see it. And that's really what we're trying to get out with the National Apprenticeship Week, is to let everyone across the nation understand that apprenticeship is here and it's here to stay, and it is not an alternative, it is an option. And that's what we're trying to do with National Apprenticeship. I'll tell you that one of the things that we heard about National Apprenticeship Week is there's a state out there that wants to make it National Apprenticeship Month. More power to them. We're not going to do that. I was on the road from Sunday morning to Saturday night, that whole week. It becomes a long week. National Apprenticeship Week is how you can give your program exposure at a national level. We take all that information, of course we open it up on the public website, but we also push it out and share it across the industries so that they can see what's happening in one particular state when it comes to these different industries. We break it up by states, we break it up by industries, and we share all that information. And the 2018 information should be posted on apprenticeship.gov here in the next couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, on tomorrow, Thursday, a final report is due to us on all that information, so we can go ahead and try to get it posted. So we'll have it posted soon. But thank you. Yes, it's a great opportunity to take your program and really market it to the entire nation. Well, really, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you and all. Please, my staff will be here. Talk to them. They love to speak. I know they do, even though they're kind of quiet right now and all. And then I really appreciate the partnership that we have with Jody and with Steve and all. And I really hope you the most success and continue all the wonderful operations you have in apprenticeship.
Thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Jody.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
A little swag for you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.